Welcome to Mortgage Markets and More. I'm your host, Peter D'Angelo. I hope you're having an awesome week. Special episode alert. We've got the National Association of Realtors existing home sales data. Very excited to be jumping right on this. It was released today, so I'm reporting the same day, and then I'm going to get it out, so you're going to be listening to this the next morning. So hopefully this will give you some insight as you're heading into the weekend and ending out your week. We will still have our regularly scheduled programming on Friday, but for now, I'm not going to bury the lead, talk about anything as far as what we're going to be looking at on Friday. Let's just say it's rough. Woof. I'll leave it at that. But let's talk about existing home sales data, and this is as of today for September, as published by the National Association of Realtors. Again, I like to remind everybody that these are all seasonally adjusted numbers and figures unless otherwise stated. So let's delve right in. Overall, 3.84 million units sold, which is down 1% from August of 2024 and down 3.5% from September 2023. Much lower volume happening. It's the end of the summer. People preparing for the school year, or the school year's in session now in September. So, the people who are shopping, they're shopping in August. Sometimes they put that on hold. So the seasonality, that's why we use seasonally adjusted numbers, because it is a lower volume time in general anyway. Here's how it breaks down by region. Northeast had 460,000 units sold. That's down 4.2% month over month and down 6.1% year over year. The Midwest saw 900,000 units sold. That's down 2.2% month over month and down 5.3% year over year. The South was the outlier here, 1.72 million units sold. That's still down 1.7% month over month and down 5.5% year over year. And then the West saw 760,000 units sold, up 4.1% month over month and up 5.6% year over year. So quite a bit more activity on the West, all other regions lacking significantly comparatively month over month and year over year. The median home sales price for existing homes in September 2024, the national median was $404,500, and that's a 3% year-over-year increase. Again, the median is the most commonly occurring number in the data set. It is not an average. The median does a better job of representing what is the customary average than averaging it out because of outliers on both ends of the spectrum. Here's how it breaks down by region. The Northeast has a median sales price of $467,100. That's up 6% year over year. The Midwest has $306,600 as a median sales price. That's up 5% year over year. The South has $359,700 as a median price, modestly up 0.8% year over year. And the West is at $616,400 as a median price, and that's up 1.7% year over year. Let's connect some of this information. So we had the Northeast really lacking with the biggest drop-off year over year with the volume of activity. However, we're seeing the highest price growth. These two things are related if that's what you're thinking. So if there's more supply and there's more volume, you're going to see more modest property appreciation, or maybe even flat, because I would call the South pretty flat year over year, 0.8% up. And we saw that the West was the outlier by way of the amount of sold homes, but that only saw a 1.7% year over year increase. Meanwhile, in the Northeast, we're at 6% year over year. That's staggering, especially when you know that we are considering year over year, and there has been consistent property appreciation in the year prior and prior to that, pretty much from the beginning of COVID. So home values are remaining resilient due to a lack of supply and demand economics. Yet again, you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but it is true. That is what is a function of what's happening right now. Let's zoom in, as we do, for single-family homes, condos, and co-ops. Single-family home sales were represented by 3.47 million of the 3.84 million homes sold. That's down 0.6% month over month and down 2.3% year over year. Condos and co-op sales was 370,000 units, and that's down 5.1% month over month and down 14% year over year. Less inventory availability, possibly, or less interest in condos and co-ops. Could be a mix. The median price for single-family homes is $409,000, and that's up 2.9% year over year. And the median price for condos and co-ops is $361,600, and that's up 2.2% year over year. The reason why we're seeing a difference here from the main medians that we just went over is we're breaking out the single-family condos and co-ops. We're not talking about multifamily, mixed-use properties, different things like that. Let's talk about the inventory levels. Right now, total inventory is at 1.39 million units, and that's up 1.5% from August and also up 23% year over year. That's amazing. That's really good. We're starting to see some more inventory. Obviously, what we talked about at the top, not quite enough to help stabilize housing prices and get regular volume of activity happening. But this is promising. The number of months supply is at 4.3 months worth of supply, and that's up from 4.2 in August of 2024, and that's also up from 3.4 months in September a year ago in 2023. Things are trending in a better direction for sure, but as time goes on, the goalposts will keep moving forward. And what I mean by that is until there is really a sufficient amount of inventory to meet at least the majority of the buyer demand that there currently is, which is a ton, we're going to continue to see this being what I'll call a problem promulgating the market because there's not enough for the demand that's there. And that's why I'm saying the goalposts will keep moving further. And it will take something tangible to happen in order for us to see more inventory open up. I know Larry Schoen, who is one of the advisors with National Association of Realtors, he's the editor for this report. He made mention that there's a little bit of anyone who's on the fence before, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially he was communicating that the election upcoming has a lot of people putting everything on hold and waiting to see what happens with the election. My 2 cents on that, if you look back historically, election, no election, it really doesn't have much of a difference other than the behavioral economics and the psychological impact that the election has on the American consumer and the American investor. So either way, what we have in front of us is the fact that people are holding off. They're waiting until after the election to make a decision about listing their home and making a move. Now let's look at the buyer composition. So September 2024, first-time home buyers comprised 26% of these transactions, and that's unchanged from August of 2024. The investors that were involved were 16% of all sales, and that's down 19% from August. So see also what I just mentioned? The investors, they're holding back a little bit too on the buying side. All cash sales were 30% of transactions. That's up 26% from August and also up 29% year over year. So that's kind of a staggering number to see 30% all cash. But in this competitive environment, people are going to do everything that they can. So if it means they're going to scrape together what they can to make a cash purchase, that's what they're going to do to be successful in a competitive environment. Distressed sales comprise 2%. So distressed sales as defined by foreclosure, short sale, pre-foreclosure. So that's unchanged. Nothing's happening there. I've mentioned before, we want to keep an eye out for the distressed sales. If the distressed sales start moving upward, that could start to show us an indication of weakness in the real estate market. Right now, we have no evidence of that, but I always like to mention it. So here are the highlights. We're going to go through the highlight reel. Inventory, 4.3 months of supply versus 4.2 in August and 3.4 in September a year ago. We're doing good. Single-family home sales, 3.47 million, down 0.6% month over month and down 2.3% year over year. Median sales price for a single-family home, $409,000, and that's up 2.9%. Contextualizing all of this with what the rate environment looked like in August, which is likely the time most of the buyers locked in their financing for those who had financing, the average mortgage rate, according to Fannie Mae, in August was 6.73%. Kind of close to where we are now. We're going to talk more about that on Friday. But the next report for existing home sales is November 21st, 2024. I'll look forward to getting that out absolutely as soon as possible. Let's summarize all of this together. There is continuing to be a struggle in certain markets. As we've seen, there's a lot of volume and activity happening in the West, and it seems to be an evening effect where when there's a low amount of volume for a prescribed amount of time, then things will tick up and pop. And that's what we're kind of seeing to different regions. The Northeast really is the outlier here. The Northeast is staying incredibly competitive. It's a highly desirable area to be. New York, Boston, some of the main financial centers of the world happen to be housed here. And so that could be reason. And also population density is to be considered. There's just a lot of people here in the Northeast. And the more people you have, the more competition you have. So it will be a situation that we're going to keep an eye on. But I want to end on a good note. So the good note is, let's focus, after reviewing all of this information, let's focus on the highlights, the really, really good elements of what we've seen from the National Association of Realtors existing home sales data. Point number one, supply. Albeit the supply is a national number, right? But having that show is super helpful. We're seeing that there's more inventory coming on the market. That's good. That's going to help us long term. Secondly, modest appreciation of home values across the country. Still, the Northeast is wild, 6%. Gaining 6% a year. I mean, you're outperforming quite a bit in the stock market. Considering what property appreciation is. I know that they're not one and the same, but you kind of scratch your head. Wow, 6% appreciation year over year. But again, that's the outlier. On average and on balance, things are starting to even out from a median sales price. I remember when this median price at one point was up to $417,500. So it's backed off a little bit, which is good. And it makes sense because of the rate environment and the volatility with it. So that's it. We've got more inventory, and that is enough for us to rest a little bit easier and know that we are moving in the right direction. That is it for our report. If you have any questions related to existing home sales data or anything else that you would particularly like covered or highlighted moving forward when I do the report out in November, please email me at peter.d'angelo@rate.com, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Also, if there's anything else you'd like to have covered on the show, let me know. Follow me on socials. You can DM me. All of the links are in the episode description. I will be back tomorrow on Friday so that I can give you your mortgage rate update ahead of the weekend and discuss some of the stuff going on there. In the meantime, make it a great rest of your week and take good care.